You think death is the end. Actually, death is merely the moment your life script is put to the test. In ancient Egypt, there was a set of rituals never revealed to the public, used to determine whether your consciousness could return after death. It's not reincarnation, not a cycle of rebirth, but a judgment of the soul's layers. The underworld is not hell, but a path you must return to, and your current confusion, dreams, loss of control, may be you experiencing your first recall after death. They call it the Egyptian underworld, Duat. This is not the end. This is the entrance examination hall for all souls. Whether you pass or not doesn't depend on how successful you were in life, but only on whether you can face your true self after death. No one can walk that path for you, and no one can accompany you. You must pass through 42 trial gates alone, facing every lie you've told, every decision you've made, and every shadow you didn't see in your life. In Egypt, there is no such thing as death. There are only those who are stuck in the underworld without completing the ritual. If you are never ready, your soul will never reach the hall of truth at that moment. The terrifying thing is, this ritual of the underworld began long ago. Not after you die, but the moment you first close your eyes to the truth. Have you ever thought about this question? If I die today, what will happen next? Not an afterlife, not reincarnation, not angels, not the grim reapers. The moment you stop breathing, what truly begins is not leaving, but entering. The terrifying thing is, you have no idea what you will enter. No one tells you it's a checkpoint, a space you must pass through yourself, with structure, judgment, traps, codes, and more importantly, it remembers you better than you remember yourself. When we are alive, we all think death is a moment. The heart stops beating and the person is gone. But in the world of the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end, but the beginning of a second life more complex than life itself. You think death is quiet, but what's truly terrifying is it waits for your response. If you don't respond, it keeps creating echoes. Why do some people spend their entire lives in the same cycle? Why do you keep repeating the same traumatic script? You think it's the fate of your emotions, but actually, it might be that you didn't complete your last underworld ritual. Modern people have long since turned death into a taboo subject. Even the word body feels jarring. We use words like gone, departed, and rest in peace to cover it up. But actually, it's because we're all afraid that one day, we'll have to cross that path alone. But the more you fear it, the more inescapable it becomes. The deepest secret of Egyptian underworld rituals is, the more you avoid death, the sooner it will find you. It doesn't take your life, but makes you live like a dead person. If you currently feel alive but without feeling, working but feeling like your soul is gone, interacting with people but always playing an empty role, that's not depression, that's not anxiety. It might be that your soul has prematurely entered the underworld's testing phase. You just haven't realized it. Modern people are accustomed to beautifying, metaphorizing, and concealing death. Gone, rest in peace, in a better place. But these words are like perfume on a corpse. You think they mask the smell of decay, but they only postpone the moment of true confrontation. We move death from the hospital to the crematorium, then from the crematorium to the portrait, and then remove it from the portrait, leaving only one sentence. We don't talk about this. Have you noticed that the more afraid of death someone is, the more they live like a ghost? They mechanically get up, eat, smile, and work every day, without feeling, without warmth, without meaning, like an account suspended by a system, only the surface of running. You don't even know how you survived. Death doesn't come to take your life. Death comes to check if you've already died once. True death isn't the cessation of breathing, but the premature collapse of your inner self. Without ever saying goodbye. Have you ever lost a relationship? Lost a loved one? Missed an opportunity that can never be regained? And then desperately tried to live a normal life. But since then, there's a part of you that has never truly come back to life. That place might be hidden in your chest where you can't fully love, always feeling like a part of yourself is missing. It might be stuck in your throat, where you can never express your truest thoughts. Or deeper, In your lower abdomen, there's always a feeling of emptiness, heaviness, even a chilling coldness. Those are the fragments of consciousness that have died. They haven't gone anywhere. They're just stuck inside you, suppressed, forgotten. And Egyptian underworld rituals say, every broken fragment of the soul becomes a stone that prevents you from passing through that path. You think you can escape death, but every time you run, it reappears in the underworld as a problem. Why do you never dare to express your true thoughts? Why do you always run away from intimate relationships? Why do you always back down at crucial moments? Why do you never truly face what you want to do? You think these are personality traits, but the underworld doesn't think so. Every gatekeeper in the underworld is a part of yourself that you've never dared to face. At the moment of Osiris's death, his body was torn into 42 pieces. Each fragment represents a part of humanity lost during life. Forgotten self-esteem, distorted emotions, feigned kindness, silent anger, and a trampled but never spoken of will. If you never rediscover these, your soul cannot traverse the underworld. It's not the gods judging you, but yourself, finally forced to confront the side you refused to see while alive. In ancient Egypt, there was no such thing as direct ascension of the soul to heaven. Everyone must traverse the underworld after death. Whether you were a king, slave, sorcerer, or warrior in life, the underworld, Duat, is the sole entrance to all consciousness. But do you know the even more terrifying truth? The underworld doesn't wait for death to activate. It's a space of consciousness that begins to quietly open the moment you first lose your sense of direction, your sense of soul, and the warmth of life. Ancient Egyptian esoteric masters said, Duat is not the end, but a mirror of memory. It reflects the true shape of your soul, one that even you cannot deny. The story of Osiris is the archetype of humanity. Osiris was not a victimized god. He was the first to dare face the path to the underworld. He did not resist death, but chose to enter it, be dismembered, judged, and shattered, and then, through a resurrection ritual, sew himself back together piece by piece. He did not escape, but rather accepted each broken piece, and made the brokenness part of the ritual. This is the true resurrection. Before traversing the underworld, every soul must face 3 challenges. The trial of memory, confronting every lie told and every decision made in life, not judging you by others, but can you admit it yourself? Doom the path of shadows, traversing the space formed by your unintegrated traumas. Every monster that attacks you is a projection of your repressed emotions. The weighing ritual, place your heart on one side of a scale, and on the other side, a feather from Ma'at symbolizing truth. If you lie to yourself too much, your heart will be heavier than the feather, and your soul will never be free. You think these are just myths, but have you noticed that you've been repeatedly experiencing these 3 things throughout your life? You repeatedly recall the past, trying to convince yourself it wasn't my fault. You are reactivated by old wounds in relationships, yet you can never find a way out. You often feel empty late at night, as if something is pressing down on you. These are signals that an unactivated underworld ritual is repeatedly running in your consciousness. You are not incomplete. You just haven't finished walking that path yet. The core of Osiris's resurrection lies not in divine power, but in his willingness, even after his body was dismembered, to painstakingly sew himself back together. This sewing is not restoration, but the creation of a more complete soul structure, one that knows it has been broken. The underworld is a dark sea that humanity must enter on its path to awakening. There are no shortcuts, only traversal. Close your eyes, and you will see. You are walking on a long, narrow, and endless passage, the ceiling hanging low like a cave, the walls etched with every action, every decision, every harsh word, every silence, every moment you dared not live your true self. This is not a fantasy. This is what the ancient Egyptians called the path to the underworld. In the Book of the Dead, the underworld is depicted as a labyrinthine system of the underground world. 7 gates, 12 spaces, 20 spells, each imprisoning a self you have never faced. Not demons, but the parts of yourself you have suppressed, denied, and forgotten. The path to the underworld begins on the first night after your death. Your soul drifts in the deep sea of night, disoriented and unable to rely on your body. Your only weapon is, have you ever been honest with yourself? You will pass through the following areas. The River of Night, Werner's River, symbolizing the seabed of the subconscious, where the soul must float alone. If you have avoided your deepest wounds throughout your life, they will become shadows in the sea, dragging you into a whirlpool. Emotional projection, fear, confusion, loss of control. Physical projection, insomnia, emptiness, lower abdominal coldness. The gate of the riddle. The gatekeeper will ask you, who are you? Why have you come? Why do you live? You cannot lie, or the gate will not open. If you have never truly considered these questions, your soul will be stuck at the gate, wandering for 1,000 years. Emotional projection, identity confusion, self-deprecation, dependence on others' approval. Body projection, throat chakra constriction, chest pressure, language impairment, desert of the forgotten. This place is filled with fragments you chose to forget in your life, emotions you denied, unspoken guilt and beliefs once deeply held but now shattered. The soul needs to traverse these memories. With each one recognized, one less snake coiled around the ankle is removed. Otherwise, you will be stuck here. Like those who didn't say goodbye in life, repeating the same life story over and over, just to catch up. Emotional projection, trauma replay, relationship replication, crisis of belief, body projection, closed solar plexus chakra, emotional emptiness. The scale of Mayat. The end of the underworld is a large hall with a huge scale in the center. On one side is your heart, and on the other is a feather. It's not others who judge you, but the weight of your heart, determined by the choices you make in this life. If you've betrayed yourself too many times, your heart will weigh heavier than a feather, and you won't be able to cross the gate to the end. Emotional projection, guilt, internal conflict, self-destructive impulses, physical projection, chest tightness, back pain, unprovoked self-attacks. The ancient Egyptian map of the underworld isn't a mythological structure, but a diagram of the soul's evolution, an interwoven tapestry of emotions, energy, memories. We don't walk that path after death. We navigate it while we're alive, constantly passing through levels in the underworld, every emotional drama that stagnates, every unspoken truth, every stage of life you want to escape. Is you stuck before a certain gate to the underworld? You're not lost. You just haven't recognized which level you're facing. Now close your eyes. You don't need to die. You're already on that path to the underworld. The only thing you need to do is begin to respond. We believe that passage through the underworld relies on wisdom, faith, or blessings. But ancient Egyptian priests left behind a true key, a hidden power center deep within the human body. It's not in the brain, not in the heart, but in the lower dantian. Have you ever experienced these feelings? When emotions break down, your abdomen tightens. You want to express yourself, but your words always seem stuck in your throat. When making decisions, a part of your body simply doesn't want to move. These are not coincidences. They are the result of your body's most primal life engine losing its connection. In the underworld, the soul cannot rely on eyes, ears, or reason. It can only move by one thing, the integrity of its energy structure. The ancient Egyptian incantation for crossing the underworld says, breathe 3 times with your abdomen, summoning the fire of the lower dantian. When the fire rises, the path opens. When the path opens, the shadow recedes. When the shadow recedes, the true self is revealed. They weren't playing with mystery. They left behind a resurrection mechanism that can be executed physically. Modern Underworld Activation Exercise, practical version. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit down and close your eyes. Place your hands naturally on your lower abdomen, 1 palm's width below your navel. Step 1. Return to the deepest part of your body. Don't think about any problems. Don't try to solve anything. Just breathe. Slowly place your awareness in your abdomen. You might feel an emptiness or you might feel nothing at all. Good. That's the channel you must activate. Step 2. 3 lower abdominal breaths. With each inhale, imagine you're not inhaling air, but rather the return of fragments of your soul. With each exhale, imagine you're exhaling the suppressed truth of the past. Inhale, reclaim the power you lost in chaos. Release the pain you suppressed in silence. Persist for 3 rounds. If you feel your abdomen vibrating, warm, or tears inexplicably welling up, don't resist. That's your true door to the underworld being opened. Step 3. Silently recite the vow of completion. Finally, softly recite, I will no longer flee from the darkness. I will traverse the underworld to reclaim the light of my soul. Osiris has traversed this path, and I am ready. Not every breath will awaken you. But the moment you are willing to begin your journey, the underworld will ignite a responding flame. Osiris's resurrection is not a performance of miracles, but a demonstration to you. Death is not the end. True death is never having begun to live fully. Have you always thought that death is a matter for gods, the underworld is a legend, and resurrection is a miracle from ancient myths? But now you know. The underworld doesn't appear after death, but is an inner labyrinth you begin traversing while you are alive. Resurrection is not about being redeemed by someone, but about stitching yourself back together stitch by stitch in the darkness. You are not a fearful person on that path. You are the one who will complete the journey and lead others out. Osiris's resurrection didn't just make him a figure of power. He became the creator of order in the underworld, the god of the dead, and the king of judgment. This wasn't because he possessed divinity, but because he chose to transcend his own fragmentation, not to escape it. True strength isn't about defeating darkness, but about rising from it and continuing forward with a mended body. Your life is never simply about living well enough. Your soul only truly becomes strong after you've personally mended its own pieces. From this moment on, you are no longer someone who avoids pain and fears endings in reality. You are someone who sees a beginning in every ending and salvages your own light in every loss. You are not a loser. You just haven't yet uttered those words. I am ready to awaken from my darkness. The moment Osiris emerged from the underworld wasn't a new beginning, but rather that he finally accepted each of his deaths. You can too. Remember the question we asked at the beginning? Where do you go after you die? Now you know. You don't go to a place. You pass through a space. A space you've already walked through, yet never named. The Egyptians faced it with underworld rituals, and you, with your entire life, every pain, loss, collapse, and reconstruction, walk along that mysterious path of no return. You were never truly lost. You simply forgot. All paths ultimately point to yourself. You were never truly dead either. A part of you is waiting for you to return, to pick it up, and to sew it back into your soul. The underworld is not the end. It is the necessary path to becoming yourself. You don't need to become Osiris, but you need to understand that you too have shattered like him, and you too can be resurrected like him. So the next time you feel collapsed, broken, lost, swallowed by darkness, remember, this is not the end. This is just the next stage of your underworld ritual. It won't kill you. It will ask you, are you ready to be whole? May you see your own light on that road where no one can walk with you. Not because you're lucky, but because you chose to traverse it.